Heather Ann Havenwood. Heather Ann Havenwood. Start over. All right. Okay.
Okay, take two.
All right. So we're doing this over. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Take two.
Here we go. Heather Ann Havenwood is a serial entrepreneur and is regarded as a top authority on digital marketing, sales coaching, and online publishing business strategies. Heather Ann has been named top 50 must follow women entrepreneurs for 2017 by the Huffington Post. She is also called Chief Sexy Boss. Today, she's going to be joining us to talk about her latest book, Power Guesting: Insider Secrets to Profit from Being a Great Podcasting Guest. Welcome to my show, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, James.
Yes, it's always a pleasure. My listeners may not know this, but Heather was on my show before, and she talked about her own story and how
Yeah.
she went from just really transforming her own life and recognize
Mm-hmm.
it's the journey and not necessarily the destination. So I'm going to link her previous show to this interview, and you can hear that as well. So Heather, you are a dear friend of mine, so thank you so much for being a guest again.
I guessed again. I'm a guest again. Like the second time. I love it. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm on like a Jimmy Kimmel. Ta-da, I'm back. I'm back.
Well,
I'm
pretty
back.
soon this show is actually going to be on TV, so you'll be definitely be a
Yay!
guest on my show. Holla.
Awesome.
All right, so let's talk about your phenomenal book. So you have been interviewed by so many people. You know, I've always been blown away by just hearing all you're on this show and that show and this show, and you seem to know everybody, which is wonderful. Tell me, how did you come about writing this book? What was the impetus for this book in general?
Okay, so let's start where I kind of started in the what I call the podcasting world or radio world. So it was actually 2013. I have a book
Okay.
out called Sexy Boss.
Yes.
By the empowerment of women, and I created a show called Sexy Boss Show to go along with my Sexy Boss book. I
makes
thought
sense.
that sounds good. I had no clue what I was doing in the podcasting world. I interviewed 5 girlfriends of mine. I
Mhm.
threw up all the shows at the same time, and then I was like, "Ta-da!
Yeah.
Where's all the people?"
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I didn't know what I was doing. I
Mhm.
didn't understand how this business works. And there's a particular art, just like anything, show business, radio, any kind of media, blogging, content marketing.
Mhm.
There's a particular way you do it, right? It's not just throwing up a blog
Yeah.
post, right? It's actually, there's a structure to that. And I didn't understand that. So it's still out there on iTunes. I call it the archive world, wherever that
Yeah.
is, or the graveyard. Sexy Boss Show. And it's great interviews and dear friends of mine, but I just didn't know what I was doing.
Mhm.
So I thought to myself, well, podcasting's dead.
It
Let's
didn't
not
work.
do that because
It
it
did
didn't
not
work.
work, so therefore.
It didn't work for me, therefore it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then what happened is in 2015, I got invited by, just like this, a guest,
Mhm.
a friend of mine. He's like, why don't you come on my show and talk about what you're doing? I own an online company. I've been an online marketer since 2004.
Wow.
My first business online, I started in 1999.
Goodness. Yeah.
I have a master's degree in online marketing. So like online marketing to me is like breathe it. It's a
Mhm.
living, breathing thing for me. So my friend reached out. She's like, hey, why don't you just come onto my show? I talk about online marketing. Why don't you just talk? Great. So it was this great conversation. It was easy. It was simple. And next thing I know, I get a $5,000 coaching client. So what happens is in
Wow.
my head, I'm like 30 minutes of chit chat, $5,000. Like, why would I not do
Yeah,
that?
of course.
So I really realized the power of it. I started to get and understand, how do I share my story?
Mhm.
No one cares about my resume. I mean, yes, I have all these credentials
Yeah.
and things I've done, but at the end of the day, people always ask, how did you get where you're at? How did that happen?
Mhm.
What
Because they often see they'll see the finished product of it. They don't see all of the lessons, don't know all the things, the struggles that you had to be able to get to where you are today.
exactly? That's why we love actors, because we're
Mhm.
like, how did George Clooney become George Clooney? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How does that happen?
sure.
And there's all these struggles and stories and things that happen in the background. And that's why we, Matthew McConaughey, I live in
Mhm.
Austin, Texas. So we, of course, we love him and his particular story of how he's this bad boy. No one liked him. He was broke. And there's this whole story. And people love that.
Yeah.
They don't know what his resume is. They just know he's amazing. So the point is that back in 2015, I started focusing really heavily on how can I add value? Because at the end of the day, I'm a guest in your home.
Mhm.
I'm in your space. I'm in your home. These are your listeners, right? And I'm a guest. So how do I add value, share my personal story to add value to your listeners, and at the same time, of course, attract people to my services, right?
Yes.
How do you do that? So that's what happened. So I've been at this point over 300.
That's
I've been
crazy.
on summits, radio shows, podcasts, video, like vlogging, as they call it,
Mhm.
all kinds of different guest ways. We can do
Yeah.
today Facebook lives, all kinds of stuff. So I've been over 300 and I learned that people really want to hear my story. But here's what happened. Here's the point. I flipped the mic, as I called it. I flipped the
Mm-hmm.
mic in about a year and a half ago. And I realized I brought some dear friends of mine who I knew were amazing come on my show, and they weren't that great. With all love and respect, I knew they were amazing.
We'll
I
make
knew
sure
they
they
were
don't hear this story in this
right.
episode.
They're not listening, right? They were experts in their
Yeah, I
fields.
understand.
They
Yeah.
like they were good at their expertise, but sharing their story was boring, or they were trying to pitch, or they were trying to show their resume, and
Yeah.
like it wasn't entertaining. We as experts have to always be entertaining and sharing, and then
Mm-hmm.
selling. So that's the concept. And so basically now that book, Power Guesting, I wrote that book mainly, hopefully for my friends.
Yeah.
Please get the book. But if you're a doctor or a chiropractor or a dentist or a lawyer or anything, people want to hear your personal story. I'm working with a lawyer right now. He's an amazing business attorney.
Mm-hmm.
He works with entrepreneurs. He likes entrepreneurs. He likes to work and represent them because his family owned a restaurant for 20
Oh
years and he
wow.
saw it.
Kind
This
of in
is a
his blood.
story.
Yeah.
It's in his blood. He wants to represent
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs. He really believes in them. See, that's the kind of attorney you're like, where's that guy?
Exactly.
But he's not telling his story.
Mm.
No one knows that. I just
Yeah.
know that.
And even
I
as
know
an
that.
entrepreneur here, listening to that, like, oh my gosh, I've totally hired this person.
Right,
Just from
right.
that.
He's not a lawyer from lawyers. He's a
Yeah.
lawyer who has a passion to represent business owners and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs in America because he knows once you're an entrepreneur, things happen and people come at you.
Yeah.
So he really wants to, like, he has a passion for that. So people want to hear that personal story. They don't want to hear, oh, but he went to this law school and he's got this certification. And I mean, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
no one really
yeah. I hear
no one
you.
wants to hear that. So, like,
Wow.
you're amazing. You're amazing at what you do.
Thank you.
But I want to hear about your personal story, like
Mhm.
how in the world you became the guy you are, right? How did that happen? And like one day, I'm gonna like totally diagnose you for a living. You know what I mean?
No, I understand. Well, what did you find? So you found that most people were telling their resume or sharing their resume. So what when you kind of extrapolated this and listened to your friends and realized that they didn't present themselves the way that they could have, where did it then lead you next?
Okay, so what led me next was okay. Well, I come from modeling, meaning
Hmm.
what I mean by that is entrepreneurs. We model business behaviors at work. Okay.
Okay.
So here's the first thing I got to. First of all, it's called H to H. My concept of H to H means human to human. We
Hmm.
as human beings haven't changed that much. Yes, we have now iPhone 10 and 9 and whatever now
Sure.
is the next, but we as human beings haven't changed that much. We don't change that much. As you know,
Hmm.
as a diagnostic, you see that human beings over thousands of years, we don't change that fast.
Yeah.
We just don't. The tools we have change, from horses to carriages to now cars and
Hmm.
amazing Hummers, all kinds of
Yeah.
but now self-driving cars. I mean, come on, we do not change that fast. So
Yeah.
here's the thing: H to H. When you're entertaining, when you're sharing your story, when you're in front of one client, when you're on a show of a radio or TV or being interviewed by your local TV station, you want to share your personal story. And I thought, okay, who's best at telling stories? Not me.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood. Now, there is a time-tested flow that Hollywood follows.
Hmm.
And every time they try to go against that flow, the quote unquote movie fails in the box office. And it doesn't matter if it's drama, comedy, action,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. We as human beings have a particular way we are attracted to storytelling. And so I thought, okay, how do we share our personal story as experts
Sure.
and place it on top of their flow?
Oh, I like that. I really do like that. So that whole story arc there. I mean, that is incredible. Being
Yeah.
obviously in the media myself, and have recognized that. Even the books that I read, there's really cheesy. I shouldn't say cheesy. The high fantasy books that I read, there's that origin story, or there's this aspect of how this person started, a little bit of the background, which all of a sudden launches them into this new adventure, into this new change in their life. So is that exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's
Okay.
basically it. So it's a 6-stage plot structure. It's
Oh,
the
wow.
structure
So
that
it's really structured.
screenwriters actually write their story on top
Hmm.
of, right? So, like I said, anytime they try to go against it, or I'm going to be a different screenwriter, I'm going to be unique, it flops.
Right.
Means that the people who are, the customers, really, right?
The consumers,
We want to be entertained. We go into movies to be entertained or to feel.
yeah.
We are so, I guess, we're basically trained from biblical times. I mean, you open the Bible, like it or not, you can read a story and understand it. You can get it.
The
Now you can,
nuances of it. Yeah, you
can understand, you can feel it. You can not like it or not like it, or
Sure.
agree, disagree, but you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand it. That's because human beings haven't changed that much, right? So here's basically the 6-stage plot structure. And I didn't make this. Is not mine. If you really want to go into it, there's people like a guy named Michael, who's storymastery.com. You could go and like study him, or you can buy my book, Power Guessing, that kind of goes through it. Because what I do is I take it and I simplify it really quickly to place it on top of your expertise. Yes. Because if you're a dentist or chiropractor or lawyer, you still have a story. Why did you become a dentist? How did that happen? You're a fireman. Why that? Why didn't you choose something else? I mean, everyone's got this really personal story of how we became what we became, right? So basically that's it. Do you mind if I just share the 6 steps?
Yeah, please do. That's totally fine.
So basically the 6 steps are this. 1 is full and identity. Basically, what that means is the setup is, imagine a movie. We're here and we like have a moment in time. Okay. That's the opening scene. Where are they right now?
Okay.
Right. And then through the process, you see where they go. Marvel comics are amazing at this. I mean, that every single movie you see in Marvel, it's like this concept just completely.
The origin story. Yep.
Origin story. And then the next thing is like a new situation happens. Boom. What was that first situation that happened in your life to say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this old life. I want something new.
Yeah.
And there's that moment, something happens, a person, situation happens in your life. Sometimes it's really dramatic. Sometimes it's not dramatic. Sure. Sometimes one person, sometimes a divorce and a car wreck or something. Because people come to me and say, Heather, I want to share my story, but like, my life is kind of boring. Like, I'm just telling you what happened. It's not boring. It's not boring. You just have to understand that things happened in your life that had you move and alter and change. Sure. But what they say is, well, I didn't have this dramatic moment of a big divorce or, life-changing accident. Yeah. How will people relate to me? I'm like, well, they relate to you because you had a moment to make a decision. So that was number 2, new situation. Then it's what I call the progress. The progress piece is vacillates between the old you and the new you.
The commitment part of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what? Am I going to really make this change? And are my friends and people and friends around me going to support me? And there's that moment. You can probably hear yourself. And the next one is what I call complications and higher stakes, when it's like, now it gets real.
Yes. Okay.
Right? It's like, you got to make a decision. People's lives are the line, or there's money involved, or you can't vacillate anymore.
It's and if the buy-in, the full-on buy-in, yeah.
Absolutely. If you look at actors and actresses, especially artists, I mean, if you look at their life, Pink, for some reason, I always think of Pink. I mean, I think at one point in her life, she was literally working at a 7-Eleven.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, now she's Pink. We know her as Pink. And she used to be some chick behind, like, getting, like, chips. Yeah. How does that happen? Yeah, right? Get exactly. A Slurpee. Here's Pink. Next thing you know, she's Pink. So there's a complication of higher stakes. Something, like, gets real. Like, this gets real. Yeah. And I think of my friend Troy, if he's listening, Troy. He is a great actor. He's an amazing actor. But he didn't start acting until he was 40.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
And he lives in Houston, Texas. I've known him since I was 17. Wow. And he finally was like, I'm making this decision. I'm going to be an actor. Yes. He got up and moved to Atlanta. Now, you got to understand, this person's never left Houston. He's just like, he has so many amazing friends and a support team and support system. And he's like, but if I want this, because I told him, I go, Troy, you're not a tree you can move. It's called U-Haul. If you want to be an actor right now, you go to Atlanta, because that's where everything is right now. Yeah. If you want to be on Wall Street, you go to New York, right? If you want to be a fashion designer, you go to New York or Paris. You don't try to do that in Alabama.
That's true.
Right?
It is very true.
It's like, there's a moment where you're like, stop talking and go do it. Yeah. Right? So that's where the higher stakes comes in. You're not a tree you can move. That's one of my things my mentor said to me. And then the next phase is that final push where you kind of retreat back into your old identity, and then you kind of fully go into your full essence. We were
Wow, I
just in
love
that.
this. Yeah. As you're saying all this, I'm just thinking about my own life, and I'm like, I can literally do all those different points myself. So this is absolutely wonderful.
And the next final phase is what I call the aftermath. Now that's always the transformed existence.
Mm-hmm.
We see,
Sure.
we see you, how amazing you are now, but you had a story to get where you're at.
Lots of tears, lots of sweat.
Right. Lots of tears and sweat.
Yes.
We talk in the green room all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, we're like, I know what you go through. I know what I go through.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not beauty and
Yeah.
roses.
Yeah.
So the aftermath is really like how far we came. Now, what's
Mm-hmm.
really cool about experts and entrepreneurs, we're always going through this process.
Yes. Yes.
We're
Yes.
always
There's always
kind of,
that evolution. Mm-hmm.
oh, absolutely. So one of the things that happened to me is I went through a massive bankruptcy and I went through a massive foreclosure in my life. And I'm sitting there on this, I ended up living with a friend on a couch. Thank you for having a great friend who let me have a couch. And he lived in Marco Island at the time. Beautiful, Florida.
Down here in Florida, yeah.
And I remember this moment. This is one of my moments, right? I just had this amazing business from $0 to $1 million in 1 year. And then within 3 months after that, I had a business partner, which was bad. And he took everything and
Oh my gosh.
blah, 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 threw me into foreclosure, bankruptcy, and just completely wiped me out. This was in 2006 in Florida.
Oh
So,
gosh.
like
Yeah,
what was
that whole time frame.
on. So in 2006 and 7, so I ended up on a friend's couch in Marco Island. And I remember sitting there on the beach, James. I remember literally sitting there and going, who am I? Maybe I should just go become a waitress or like, maybe I should just go work for a big, why am I doing this entrepreneur? This is stupid. And I just remember really getting clear. I mean, I'm sitting there and I have no bank account. I have no credit card. I don't have any insurance on my car. I have a car, but I can't afford the insurance. I got nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I got nothing. And I'm sitting there on the beach and I got so clear.
Wow.
I got clear that who I am is an entrepreneur. Like at a core level. Now, you got to get, I didn't have anything physical to show you that I was, but I got clear on that's who I am. Let me give you an example of somebody else you maybe get. Michael Jordan, he is clear. He's an athlete. Yeah. He left the NBA. What does he do? He could go play golf or something. Now he's like, I think at one point he was working for the MLB or he was baseball. Like he walks on the baseball.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's not that he was a baseball player or a basketball player. He got who he was athlete.
It comes down to your identity. Often we find situations, for example, you have the opportunity, you could have been a bankrupt person or a foreclosed person or someone who didn't have their car insurance. If you quantify that or identify yourself as a time and place, that is going to end. That identity is going to change. And so you found the core of who you are as the essence of who you are as an entrepreneur. The actions that we experience are just simply actions. It's a snapshot in time that is going to change. You are not always going to be that bankrupt person or that person who can't afford your car insurance. That's a transient time. But if many people, unfortunately, create that as a snapshot of who they are, that becomes your identity, and that's all they ever become. So bravo for you. Obviously, you don't need me to say all that, but bravo for you to be able to really find your core identity to say, I'm so much greater than what my circumstances tell me that I am.
Absolutely. And so I want to take it one step further for people. When I'm sitting there on the beach and I got really who I am, then I ask myself the question, if I'm an entrepreneur, what would an entrepreneur do? And the first thing I did, I was at Marco Island though, the average age is 80. I actually tried to create a business, a dog walking business, right?
Nice, yeah.
Now, I didn't really think it through because no one works.
Oh, yeah.
So no one left the house. So everyone was like, that's great, you have a dog walking business, but like, no one leaves the house. Right? So I was like, that didn't work, right?
That's funny.
But I tried.
That's right, you did try.
I did try. And then the next thing I said is, okay, I'm not a tree, I can move. What would an entrepreneur do? Well, I go surround myself with other entrepreneurs. Nothing wrong with Marco Island, but the average age is 80. They're in a different part of their life, right? They're thinking about different things. So go surround yourself with other people of like mind. So that's how I ended up in Austin, Texas. My sister lived here. I'm from Texas, like kind of coming back home, but I knew Austin was surrounded. When I walk through the streets and I say I'm an entrepreneur, people go, yeah. If you say that to Marco Island, they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah, of course.
It's a very different kind of environment. Again, if I wanted to be on Wall Street, I'd be in New York, right? If I wanted to be in the fashion industry, I'd be in Paris or New York. I wouldn't be trying to do that from Alabama, right? So you have to really get that you're not a tree, you can move. And so here's the next point. And the next one was, life lesson. Does this feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? So I'm going to give a short story on this. Sitting there in Marco Island, and my friend calls me, who's an amazing counselor and therapist and just life coach. And he calls me, he's like, come to West Palm Beach. You know where that is?
Yes, I do.
About 2.5 hour drive. And I said, well, I can get there, but I don't have enough money to get me back. He's like, don't worry, I'll give you some money for gas. Great. So we get there, and luckily he takes me to an amazing steak dinner. I'm like, awesome, thank you. Because I can't afford that either, but like, I love the asparagus. That's really great. And he looks at me and goes, I want you to start asking yourself this question before you do anything in your life. Does it feed your confusion or strengthen your clarity? James, I looked at him, I got nothing going on.
Yeah.
He's like, I know that, but I want you to start with like the small things. Like, are you going to eat that chocolate cake? Does it feed my confusion, strengthen my clarity?
I love that. That's so powerful. That is absolutely
Really
powerful. Yes.
So I started to ask
What a
myself
great
that question.
metric.
Like before I even get on this show, before I do anything, I ask myself that question: does it strengthen my clarity, or does it add confusion? Because as you know this, and you know this, but I want to share the audience a different view. When we are in chaos, we have no power, and then we try to make decisions from there.
Yes.
Wrong.
From a reactive standpoint, yes.
Can't do it, right? So how do you make decisions from clarity? Because that sounds great. Make decisions from clarity. What? I'm going through a lot right now, Heather and James. How do I do that? Well, here's a simple way. You ask yourself the question: does it feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity on every little piece of your life? Did that relationship, this job, this situation? And because once we're clear, even a little bit, when we have clarity, we can move. When we move, we can have momentum. When we have momentum, then we have power. It's that little stepping stone. Think of a train. If a train doesn't know where it's going, it's not going to go anywhere. If the train's on this track and it knows it's going that way, then it can start to move. And then it can actually get momentum. And then it has power, right? So why do we try to go from 0 to 100?
Yeah.
You know, we're not Tesla. We're like a train.
Sure.
You know, we're like more like that train where you got to like move it. So you start to ask yourself the question: does it feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? And that goes down to personal, business, emotions, all of it.
Well, I love it because it's so practical in the sense of, like, literally, as soon as I hang up this call with you, the next thing I do, I can use that as my template for each small decision, like you said. And then, like you said, that leads to something greater and greater until pretty soon my day had a beautiful, very clear day, very productive day, very wise day, if you will. And the next day, that once again, that moment by moment then turns into day by day, which turns to week by week, which turns to month by month. And pretty soon, I'm a completely different trajectory than probably I originally thought, had I not really taken that moment to stop and check in with myself and say, is this feeding my confusion or strengthening my clarity?
Yes, exactly. Now, what I need to let y'all know, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, I am not the most positive person on the planet. I get that from James. If I need positivity, like I text him and be like, tell me something positive because he's so freaking positive. So I want you to hear that because I say, people don't look at me and go, you're so positive. They do not. That's not the essence people get from me. I get that from my friends, like James. Like, how are you today? He's like, it's amazing. I'm like, oh, I wish I was that positive.
Thank you.
You're so positive. I get it from you. I like it from you. But what I am is I'm more like I'm a driver.
Yes, you
like
are.
I drive, therefore I am. My verb, there's actually a website called Discover Your Verb where you actually get my verb, like who I am, is I'm a driver, right? and the video is really great. You should go check it out. It's not mine, it's affiliated, but it's mainly goes through like what's Einstein's verb and what's like all these presidents and Thomas Jefferson, all these amazing people in our planet and our world. And so when you get who your verb is, I drive, I'm a driver, I'm a promoter, back to power guesting, is that once people come onto the show with me, I learned that I had to be a really great host. You're a great host.
Thank you.
You're really great at adding energy, right? And I had to learn how to drive the situation or drive the conversation and pull from people, right? Which is extremely challenging sometimes. But if I could just teach them a little bit of like how to pull your story, how to like get the essence of the full set of like where you started and the new situation that happened and then the complications that you get to go through and then where you're at today. At least there's a hierarchy. There's like a flow.
There's an arc. Yeah, there definitely
there's
is.
An arc to that so that we can really share your story. So I'm not the most positive person in the world. I just want you to get that you don't have to be positive to actually get clear.
Get to find your clarity. Exactly.
Define you do not have to be positive. I just fucking have to say that because people are like, be positive. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of a grouch. I am.
I love it.
I am kind of a like,
Yeah.
well, that's not, I don't know. I see both sides of everything. Some people like you only see positive. I'm like, I see both sides. I see the negative. I see the positive. I see
Yeah.
up or down. I'm like a lawyer that way. You don't ever talk to a lawyer and try to be positive. Like, this is so exciting. They go, well, let me tell you
It's
what's
true.
going to happen if
Yes, that is very true. I
right,
did know
right.
that.
Lawyer.
Well, Heather, it has been such that we could go on and talk forever. I mean, obviously, I love having you on my show, and I'm definitely going to have you on again. But if my listeners like to find out more information about you, perhaps even work with you, or even buy your books, I know the book we're talking about today is Power Guesting: Insider Secrets to Profit from Being a Great Podcasting Guest. Where would they find this information online?
I would love to show you to a few places.
Hmm.
On Amazon, you can go to heatherhavenwood.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to my page.
Perfect.
So heatherhavenwood.com/Amazon. But I want to give your listeners a fun little cool thing. I'm doing this thing with my chat bot. Now, first, I'm going
Oh,
to
I
give
love
you
it.
a
Yeah.
gift. I'm going to give you 3 free chapters of my audiobook, Sexy Boss, to go through this process. Now, every single expert, if you're a professional, solo entrepreneur, realtor, if you're one of those, I want you to go through this process. This is really cool. So go to the following link. You ready? It's www. Oh my God, did I just say that? I did. AskHeatherAnn.com. I say it again. Ask Heather, HTHER, ANN.com. AskHeatherAnn.com. What's going to do is going to open up into Facebook Messenger. You can go through my chat bot. Super awesome.
I love
And
it.
I
Yeah.
want you to go through the process so you can experience it yourself and hang out with my chat bots. AskHeatherAnn.com. If you're interested in working with me, just go to heatherhavenwood.com and it says work with Heather and get on my calendar and we can have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, Heather Ann, thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you. Gratitude.